one of the things that was really interesting is we started off the year, or really we ended 2023, a pretty niche DeFi project that was focused on like governance tools and things like this. It wasn't really, we realized that there was a pretty low ceiling for what we could accomplish in that vertical. And so alongside all of you, we decided to expand into a much more competitive and a much larger vertical, which is liquid staking. We launched Dinero at the end of 2023. This was before the rebrand. And we were able then to grow it over the course of the year. And then after the rebrand to the 13th largest Ethereum liquid staking protocol in the entire space. We were featured in Bloomberg for launching an institutional product. We were working with tier one networks like Arbitrum and Plume and Berachain and some of these others. We did all that with no points, no eigenlayer boost, no like crazy VC backing or anything like that. And so as we talked about on the last call, the 2024 was like a year of building a really solid foundation and showing that we could compete in this vertical. And now 2025 is going to be about ramping everything up. 2025 is like the year of acceleration, and I think over the past week or so, we ended up hitting 45,000 ETH staked in PX ETH with a lot of help from our friends at Resolve, which we could talk about in a bit as well. But yeah, that's my recap of the year. Sammy, I don't know if there's anything you want to add on to that before we kind of go into some of the updates.
No, I think you hit the hammer on the head.
Perfect. So yeah, really, really solid year. I think it's easy to get caught up in the day to day, and that we didn't necessarily reach a billion TVL or whatever. But I think if you actually look at what was accomplished this year, there's a lot to be proud of, and I think there's a lot of lessons learned too. Like I think we talked about this on the last call. Some of this stuff is very new to us, like the institutional side and things like that. So we're in a pretty good spot to compete next year. We learned about as much as we could. And then now, yeah, foot on the gas going into 2025. You forgot the cool NFTs. Yeah, my bad. And we finally got an NFT project courtesy of Sir Sean. Maybe he's actually pink in disguise. I don't know, but shout out to him for putting that together. But yeah, great year. And so now we can kind of go into some of the updates. And if anybody has questions about 2024, we can answer those over the course of the call. But we thought it would be good to kind of give updates on what's been going on the past couple of weeks and then talk about 2025 stuff. So past couple of weeks, man, where should we start? Let's start with the announcement yesterday, since that's top of mind. So yesterday we announced PETH, which is the native ETH staking solution for Plume Network. This is another branded LST and actually a big opportunity for us. So Plume is a network that's going after the sort of RWA finance side of things. I believe just a month ago or whatever, they raised like $20 million. So they have a very strong backing. They have a legit team. They're focused on the sort of RWA narrative as a whole. And they are trusting us to, launch the native ETH staking solution for Plume. And of course, we get the question a lot, like PETH will be backed by APX ETH, just like every other branded LST we launch. So any TVL that goes into PETH, of course, you'll see it reflected in the PX ETH TVL. They also have a product called PUSD that they're going to be pushing. So they basically have two native assets. They have PETH and PUSD, and these are two assets that they are going to be pushing. So it's actually a unique dynamic in that way. Not every branded LST is fully pushed by the team we launch it with, whether it's for legal reasons or whatever. But Plume will actually be hosting the Plume ETH UI and shilling Plume ETH and presenting it to their LPs and whoever else is actually using for the chain. So someone waited for big Dinero stake. That's funny. But yeah, Plume ETH is a big win for us. They're also pre-token. And so Plume ETH will be in a position to hopefully receive some incentives for like LPs and things like that. But this is a huge win to start off 2025, a really big chain with big backing. And a bright future ahead of it. So we're excited to be a part of it. I don't know if there's anything anybody up here wants to add to Plume. Good.
No, just that it's launching super soon. I think they're finalizing like listings with some big like exchanges, and after that, like it'll be live day one with the chain launch.
Cool. So yeah, that'll be a big one. We're excited about it. It's another high tier chain, and it's a layer 1. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. I think we're talking like really soon. Outside of that, on the branded LST front, one thing that we have been getting a lot of questions about is where people can find a full list of the branded LSTs that have been launched or that are planned to launch. And so over the past couple of weeks, we've been working on this. Like, we've been working on 2 pages. We've been working on one, a broader sort of marketing page for the branded LSTs as a whole. But then 2, we've been working on a bit of like a list or like index of all of the branded LSTs. Mole designed it, as he designs everything here. And so I think we are on the final stretch of like getting that live. So you guys will have something to share and screenshot and tweet about and all the rest. I know it's been a long time coming. So we're gonna get that finished up and get it out. We've been grinding on getting Plume ETH ready in the meantime. So it's been on the back burner, but coming very soon. Also on the branded LST front, I think it was last week, had a bunch of questions about Barra ETH and the pre-deposit campaigns that are going on and what's our plan for incentives and all this stuff. And I guess we could talk about it a bit here on the call, because I think there was actually quite a bit of confusion about what's going on with the pre-deposits and the partnership they currently have live and things like that. So I guess to set the stage a little bit, Barachain is not live. The network is not live. Right now they are doing a pre-deposit campaign. However, they're doing it with Royco, who is hosting their pre-mainnet incentives campaign. However, this pre-deposit campaign is not the primary pre-deposit campaign. So they've been dubbing it a pre-deposit campaign, which is a little bit weird. And so for those who thought that this was the main pre-deposit campaign, people were worried that we were not adequately prepared or that we weren't going to be a part of the pre-deposit campaign. But that is not the case. And yeah, as Funky just mentioned in the chat, it is run by a third party, not the Barachain Foundation themselves. So on our end, we have been working on Barra ETH for a while in close contact with everybody in the Barachain ecosystem as a whole. And we are and have put together a plan for the main pre-deposit campaign, which will be called Boyco. So a lot of confusion. I get why. There was a lot of confusion about the pre-deposits across like DeFi as a whole and across the Barachain ecosystem as a whole. I think it was something they did because they happened to work out like a pretty good deal with a third party that they were going to, put a shitload of incentives into it and stuff like this. So rest assured that we have a plan for the proper pre-deposit campaign, which is the main one. And we have a lot of stuff ready to go in collaboration with like actual Barachain ecosystem projects. And we have a lot of partnerships with actual Barachain ecosystem projects pre-established for like weeks now. Go ahead, Funky.
Yeah, no, I mean, we have an extensive plan. I think we're in a very good place. And I think like one thing to note about Concrete, and we're also in contact with Concrete, is that the Concrete vaults right now, they don't actually earn any rewards. So it's not like we're behind anybody at all. It's just, I think it was a good marketing opportunity for Concrete, and I think they got, because it's a building on top of Barachain, they got amplified by Barachain. But I think, yeah, as you were saying, Colton, it was kind of misunderstood exactly what it was. And Boyco is really the redeposit for Barachain, and we've been working with the Royco team and Barachain team for a very long time about that.
Yeah, and I don't see like people got concerned about the current size of deposits and stuff like that. I actually think the amount of TVL that's in the current sort of Concrete pre vault things is kind of like a small sample size relative to the actual demand for Berachain, mostly because that's the amount of deposits we're seeing in the most like confusing pre-deposit launch setup that you can kind of imagine. And so it's not very streamlined. It's not on a site hosted by Berachain themselves. It's not an incentivized program pushed by Berachain themselves, etc. That would be the next program of which we are a part. So yeah, I think we're not going to be competing over that same TVL that's in those pre-deposit vaults. I think that was people just aping without full understanding of what it was. So there's a lot of room for us to compete, and it also helps that we have a lot of connections on the Berachain side, and we have a lot of partners on the Berachain side that we're working with to make sure that BeraETH is in a really good position to succeed. And it's going to be the only Berachain branded ETH LST. So if there's any questions about BeraETH, hopefully that answers most of them. But if there's any more, feel free to ask. And I don't know if Sammy, there was any more Berachain related or BeraETH related stuff you wanted to throw on top of it.
No, just that, like, I guess when we do announce it, you'll see that the more TVL Stakestone and EtherFi actually get, the better it is for us.
Yeah. Yeah. So we do have a plan. We've had one for a long time, and BeraETH will have a really good chance of being very successful and being a large LST on the chain. And there's obviously a lot of demand for ETH mainnet capital to make its way to Berachain itself. So any other questions, we'll answer them in a bit. But moving on for now, so maybe we could talk a little bit. Actually, let's talk about Alchemix next. So recently, Funky drafted a proposal in collaboration with the Alchemix team about putting, or increasing rather, the total vault limit for APX ETH on Alchemix. So for those of you out of the loop, APX ETH got added to Alchemix not that long ago. I don't remember exactly, but the original cap was set, I think, to like 100 ETH or something, filled pretty much instantly. Then it got raised to 500, filled within like a day or two. So it's been growing really fast. There's obviously a ton of demand, and I mean, it's one of the best like ETH denominated yield sources to pay off your loan much faster than if you're using like Lido staked ETH or whoever else. And recently, this proposal went live not only as a proposal but for voting to increase the cap from 500 ETH to 1,000 ETH. So I think that vote ends January 6th. So if you happen to be an Alchemix token holder or whatever, feel free to vote. But this is, again, just another exciting opportunity for APX ETH growth. There's a lot of demand for it. And so, yeah. Somebody said, I hear nothing but mute. Okay. Seems like people solve that problem. But yeah, so keep a lookout for the increased cap. I know a lot of people have been asking about it, and I think the Alchemix community has also been asking for increased APX ETH. But for this particular cap increase, governance, I think, was required. So we put the proposal forward, and we'll keep going. And then I also saw a question about Morpho in the general chat yesterday. APX ETH is already supported on Morpho. I think the borrow has been basically maxed out, but there might be a little bit of room left, if I remember correctly. So if you're looking for other borrowing opportunities, that should be there. And then speaking of borrowing opportunities as well, there's also a proposal to list APX ETH on Venus Protocol, which is on Ethereum mainnet, and the snapshot for that has already ended, and it passed with 100% support. So I don't know what the timeline looks like for actually getting APX ETH added to Venus, but it will be there. I'm not a Venus user myself, but let me see if I can find the link here. Here's the snapshot. I don't know if somebody already shared it. No, here we go. And then here's the discussion from Funky. I don't know, Funky, if you want to talk about Venus a little bit, you're probably closer to it than me.
Yeah, no, Venus, we were put in contact with Venus team, and they're really keen to get us onboarded as a collateral assets. So that's what we're working on there now. And we're also working with them to get other assets listed in other chains. So keep your guys' ear to the ground for that one.
Oh yeah, and we got like a collateral analysis or whatever from Chaos Labs, which is always good. And I think they spoke kind of highly of APX ETH, which is nice. So the more of those we have, the better. Obviously, we want APX ETH to be valued as a collateral asset on as many protocols as possible. That's how LSTs typically grow, either in liquidity pools or as assets that get looped. So also we have one piece of feedback on your mic. Apparently it's not loud enough, Funky.
Is this better?
Oh yeah.
Like ASMR costs extra.
Yeah. Milk Trudge says, yeah, that's better. Cool. So
I think
collateral on APXE, there's collateral on Alchemix and Venus. Anything else in governance that
there was
skipped?
one of our own governance posts. Let me put my mouth really close to the mic so that the recording catches this. So essentially, last year, PX ETH launched, like you were saying, Colton, reminiscing, the successful year that we've had, almost 45,000, more than 45,000 ETH in PX ETH and institutional branded ETH, etc. And we had a governance proposal a year ago, which basically stated that the treasury resources, which include governance tokens, etc., would be used to support that, and in addition, 5% of total supply would be used as incentives to bootstrap the growth of PX ETH. So, like, I think almost 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, we put out the kind of Dinero white paper, Dinero protocol white paper, which kind of outlined the vision for the Dinero protocol, which starts with PX ETH as the kind of the base Lego on Sammy's yield base plate, and then you have various different integrations or other Legos which build on top, like the Dinero Relayer or PXUSD, and then other protocol integrations on top, as you can see, like IPX ETH and branded ETH and stuff like that. But the kind of TLDR there is that for the Dinero protocol, for it to be successful, we need to intake as much TVL as we can. The end game really is that we should control a significant portion of Ethereum block space so that we can reliably generate blocks and therefore kind of service the relayer. But at the current stage now, the name of the game is developing PX ETH TVL, and that's kind of what we're doing. And so from what's happened in the last year in 2024 was that the start of the year was really an initial growth phase, and then at the latter end of the year we were like really kind of growing much quicker when things got started. I think now we're kind of seeing a lot of PMF. We're seeing protocols like Resolve, which are building on top of us organically. These people kind of approached us and were really keen to build on top of us. We've had people like ETH also ETH Plus also like showing interest in using us as collateral for their ETH product, etc. So really cool to see all that coming along. And with our kind of initial budget of 5% of total supply, we've used about 3.78, I think. That's what was in the proposal that I just posted last week. So it shows that, I think, a few things. One is that we are able to grow organically, but the other thing is that it is a very competitive game out there, and especially in the bootstrapping phase, it requires making the product especially attractive so that we can generate more TVL, but also get more people interested while we kind of climb the ranks, and then start becoming more Lindy and attractive to the larger players instead of people like Steth or RETH, whatever. So what that means now is this proposal sets out incentives for the coming year, and it's essentially the same thing except that it puts the budget at 10% instead of 5%. And I think there was a lot of questions as to kind of like, what does this mean, etc. Dinero token price is very volatile, etc. And this 10% number doesn't mean that 10% will be like hitting the market, bam, immediately. It means that it provides a budget, which means that resources are available if the opportunities present themselves, and also if the market conditions permit. So it means that if there are kind of really good opportunities where each Dinero or incentives can create kind of positive value greater than their monetary value, then that's kind of where they should be used. And kind of related to kind of the Dinero liquidity point, that's something we're always looking at when we're doing incentives to make sure that the incentives are, one, efficient, and then we're kind of removing incentives where they're not efficient. And then two, we're looking at Dinero liquidity when we're doing these kind of incentivization actions, and we're kind of actively working to deepen the liquidity of Dinero, both on chain but also off chain, as we've seen at the tail end of last year with the sex listing that we saw, and then we're also working on a number of other sex listings. So, we're working on many different fronts to keep on growing this, and the proposal basically just sets out that at a very high level.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's worth mentioning is that as PXE grows in size, so too does the opportunities we get access to as a project, and to play a lot of those games and to work with a lot of those partners. Sometimes the name of it is incentives or finding, ways to work together that are mutually beneficial. And fortunately, we've spun up a couple of products like IPXETH and like branded LSTs that allows PXETH to grow without a ton of incentives on our side, which is why we were able to undercut the total budget last year. But as PXETH grows and as TVL grows, we want to be able to work with bigger and bigger partners and find more and more creative ways to do that. And so having the incentives at our disposal to lock in some of those opportunities would be pretty helpful. You never want to be in a position where you kind of don't give yourself some headroom. I mean, you end up losing out on a certain partnership or whatever because of it. So yeah, we'll always do our best to stay within the budget, and we always make sure to shut down stuff that's not working or cut incentives if it's not bootstrapping adequate TVL or things like this. And we'll continue to do that this year as well, and with the new budget. So make sure to check out the proposal, and yeah, we'll keep it moving through the process over the next week or so. Let me pull back up my sheet. Let's see. What should we talk about? Oh yeah, we did kind of gloss over the did we talk about the ZK Sync Maverick protocol incentives on the last call?
Last call, yeah. But we've seen a lot of adoption there, and the Ignite program should be starting soon. So yeah, excited to see how that grown. We have almost two and a half mil TVL there already.
Yeah, pre-Ignite, which is really good. So hopefully the Ignite program kicks off on the originally planned schedule, and that puts ZK in a really good spot to keep growing. Hopefully the whole chain keeps growing. I think right now they are at 100-something million TVL. The TVL of ZK Sync is very similar to the TVL PXEs, but I think when they kick off that program, we'll start to see a lot of adoption on ZK Sync. They seem to be launching a V token model in January, and it would be. Do you mean ZK Sync, or who do you mean? TimeSwap? Any plan for expansion on Mega ETH? I'm not sure, but we wouldn't be able to leak it if it's not announced anyway. So I will say this, yeah, and it's an echo of what Funky just said. The BD team and we as a whole are in conversations with just about any relevant team that you can imagine. Some of them go great. Some of them, they may not be interested. Some of them want a variety of LSTs and they don't want to unite behind one LST. It all just depends. But rest assured that we are talking to everybody, and a lot of them do express interest in branded LSTs. It's been one of the more well-received products that we've ever made, in my opinion. And, the quality of the partner that it's well received by is also very interesting. I mean, the fact that, we went from working with DeFi projects exclusively to working with tier 1 networks in less than a year is pretty impressive. And that just speaks to the quality of the product. And the thing about branded LSTs too is that wasn't something that was ready until the second half of 2024 or whatever. You know, this is not something we went into the year with a completed product for. So pretty impressive. And I think that speaks to a lot of the gains that were made this year on the product front. You talking to Vitalik too? Yeah. So ETH on mainnet will be replaced with ETH, which is the Ethereum branded LST, which is pretty good. Vitalik said so. Yeah. And Vitalik's mom. Yeah. Big if true. ETH is the new gas token. Okay. So we talked about ZK Sync. We talked about, okay, another thing we could probably touch on is the Resolve partnership a little bit more. I know you touched on it a second ago, Funky, and then we could talk about TokenMac as well. So these have been two very successful integrations for PXETH as a whole. The way TokenMac works is well established to everybody here. So they have these like auto ETH pools where they just seek out the best yield earning opportunities for ETH pegged assets. And obviously PXETH's DeFi yield is rather significant. And so that makes up the vast majority of their TVL. I think the number I have here, which is provided by ViceFax, is something like they have 11.5K ETH allocated to PXETH LPs, which is very, very significant. And then on top of significant, the Resolve, do you know the total ETH of the Resolve thing? Hold on, I can pull it up. I don't know if you know it off the top of your head, Monkey. Let's see. What is it at now? Can't find it. Who has the number of ETH from Resolve?
Actually, you can find it quite easy. Let me find it.
Yeah, I'm missing their dashboard.
C70.
Let me... Oh, here we go. Show collateral pool. So right now, okay, they have $37 million of APX ETH. And so this is pretty interesting because this was a partnership that actually came to us, and you know, it would have been very hard to predict that Resolve was going to have the success they've had. Right now I think they have something like almost $400 million total of TVL, and we represent a pretty decent proportion of that. And so looking at their collateral pool now, their biggest holding on the ETH side is $215 million of wrapped staked ETH. Then they have 50 million of the Binance ETH, I believe that is, and they have 37 million of APX ETH. And so they've been a significant depositor. Yeah, and as Funky mentioned, we're about 10% of their total collateral. So pretty awesome to see. And I think we're going to keep working on doing more stuff like this. And I think we've touched on this on the past, like several community calls, since basically like the more we can integrate PXETH or APXETH into protocols like TokenMac and like Resolve, where the TVL is growing on its own, that's better for us and actually allows us to stay, you know, well under the budget if possible on the incentive side. So that's one of those things where, like, ideally the more we can grow without them, the better, but we need to have them ready for the big opportunities that come. Question: can the team do all that BD stuff without DeFi Dave? Yeah, totally. Yeah. I don't know why we wouldn't. What was he doing? He was doing BD stuff. But yeah, it doesn't mean every connection was his, for example. We have a decent team, guys. Everybody shares stuff relatively equally here. More sex, yeah, we're working on it. And not that kind of sex, the centralized exchange type. We're all staying celibate for 2025 for more sex listings. Cool. All right, so now I guess we could do two things. One, hold on, let me double check that I covered everything I wanted to. I think I did. Anybody up here think I'm missing something? Cool. So now what we can do, since it is the New Year special, we can talk a little bit about two things. One, or not talk about two things. One, we can answer questions that you have. I already see one about IPXE. And then I know we've been getting a lot of questions about the validators, which we can answer. And then two, we could talk about 2025 a bit. So let's start with the validator one, because that one's been asked actually quite a bit. Funky, I don't know if you want to give the update there or never, whoever wants to give it.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, we're migrating to third parties. So starting off with one partnership and then into multiple players. Yeah, I mean, it's live on testnet. Just got some paperwork to do, and then just do the same on mainnet.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
this isn't.
and we're
Go
we're
ahead, Mikey.
doing everything we can on the paperwork. I mean, these are real suits at the end of the day, and there's hoops that we gotta jump through, stuff that needs to happen, and it's the second working day of the year. So a lot of the stuff we want to do at the end of last year can be done because these boomers don't work, but we're doing the best we can.
Yeah, they do work, but not anywhere near holidays. So it's very like, first off, I think it's a testament to a lot of the stuff we've achieved this year, like the fact that we are now in a position where we're working with partners that don't work on holidays means we're working with relatively big partners. And so the big thing is making sure, like, we're trying to go as fast as we can, but that isn't always returned in favor by the partners we work with because they have large legal processes, they have long holidays, they don't work around certain times of year very much, and so we're trying to make our way through this stuff to the best we can. And yeah, the validator thing will be solved sooner rather than later. We're just trying to jump through every hoop they want us to jump through to make it happen, but I think it will be a pretty big upgrade for us. You won't really notice it necessarily on the user side, but the quality of the validators will go up. It'll be easier for us to scale the validator set. It'll be run in a much more polished way, and we can go, focus on other sides of the tech stack. Let me see. IPX ETH update. Yeah. I think we talked about this on the last call that there would basically not be an IPX ETH update anywhere near the holidays. Again, this is one of those things where we have done literally everything we can do on our end, and we're waiting on partners who don't work over the holidays to get it across the finish line. And so hopefully maybe by the next community call, Terrence can give more information there, but things are moving. It's just going to be relatively slow. Now that the holidays are wrapping up, hopefully we can get things across the finish line. This is just one of those, because I think people are underestimating how little the suits work around Christmas time. Maybe Sir Sean can vouch for that. What's the latest on the institutional initiative? Yeah, that's what we just touched on. Is there a PPM? I don't even know what PPM means. Does anybody know it? Let me look that up. I'm just a humble DeFi guy. Define PPM. Parts per million? That can't be right. Anyways, we have Joe Jonas as part of the cartel, yeah. So unresolved, the goal is 15%. Yeah, so the resolve thing, they keep kind of like upping the allocation, which is kind of funny. Like, well, it's not funny. It's kind of to be expected given how high the yield is relative to the rest of the collateral basket. And I think they just need a lot of yield to keep the thing going. Let's see. Reducing Dinero incentives, increasing top 100 L1 incentives. Yeah. Hold on, Sammy. You're not going to get away with only saying all this stuff in the text chat. How can we continue?
No, the question, yeah.
So the question that some of this is in reference to is how can we continue to have high yield for APX ETH and PX ETH as TVL increases? Does yield decrease? So there's multiple answers to this question. Yes, at a certain size, the yield does start to decrease. We are not near that size yet with some of the stuff we have in progress. So now I think, Sammy, it would be good for you to show some of the stuff we're thinking for scaling the yield to whatever the next $1 billion.
Yeah, I think the first main thing is the validator upgrade. Like, basically right now with the setup we have, like, we're not able to get ETH stake in fast enough. So there's like ETH in the TVL that's like not yielding, plus the performance in general is just like not as good as like some of the others. So even though we have much higher yield, the yield in theory should be higher if there was, you know, if the validators were performing the full job. So the first thing is like the V2 upgrade with the validators, right? The second thing is the restaking strategy, which is like pending a bunch of things. Honestly, like I wouldn't say that's like the top one. I'd say that's like, probably like the bottom of the priorities, because like a lot of the other restaking stuff has like lost a ton of steam. But I think we have like a unique advantage at like getting AVSs to use us, because we're building like the native LSTs for these chains in general, right? So, just as like an example, if Plume becomes if Plume is one of the chains that uses restaking to secure their chain, right? I think the most eligible collateral would be Plume ETH, right? And then same for like other Arbitrum Orbit chains that are launching and want to like secure their stuff with like restaking. They're most likely only to use like ETH as like the restaking asset. So that's another one that we think is pretty exciting. And then like the third one is probably the fact that like, while we're upping the Dinero incentives this year, because this year the goal is like $1 billion of TVL, right? We're actually going to be like reducing the amount of like focus those incentives are on like Dinero, and like working with these other chains to like push all the incentives onto them, right? So I think like, more incentives, which is like less from us, is like another key thing to like getting the TVL up, because like it's much easier to like farm a Binance listed like top 100 token on these projects rather than us. And this already starts now with so yeah.
Kind of lost you at the last half of that 1 hour. Yeah, so there are suggestions to incentivize with prizes that involve me for some reason. So dinner with Colton, maybe we could do like an NFT or something. 1 hour of CS. Yeah, so the only issue is I'm not playing CS with any of you. I don't think any of you are good enough. Is anybody here like above Legendary Eagle and CS? Fight with Marcus, yeah. Me versus Marcus in Dubai. Yeah, see, Bond, you're washed now. I don't think we could play together. So maybe dinner it is. You can have a 30-minute dinner with me if you only hold PXE for a year. Just keep in mind he is celibate. Yeah, so we're celibate for 2025 until 1 billion TVL. Let's see, did I miss any other questions during that? I don't think so. 1v5, Colton versus Joker, Marcus and Bond God. If we defeat, you get my Dinero stack? No, I would never give up my Dinero stack. Never. Which means I'd probably just win the 1v5. What was Sammy saying when his mic cut out? Sammy, do you remember what you were saying for the last like minute?
I was just saying like that the whole the third aspect of like growing the yield is like reducing like all the incentives being in Dinero and like increasing the amount of incentives that are spent by like, Movement and Arbitrum and ZK Sync and all these other chains we're working with, right? And this is like starting like immediately with like the ZK Sync Ignite program, which is like the Arbitrum STIP program. I don't know if that's the right comparable, but it's like that.
Yeah. Any Barachain update? Yeah, I spent a good amount of time at the top of the call giving the Barachain update, but I can give it really briefly one more time. The current deposit program is not the official Boyco program. It's a pre-deposit program. We are part of the more official Boyco program, and then we will, of course, have stuff going on when the chain becomes real. So Barry is in a really good spot, and I think a lot of the feedback from the last week or whatever was really just a misunderstanding about the current program going on. What type of yield gains do you think could be achieved with the V2 validator? So on the V2 validator side, it's not going to be like a 5% increase in yield or anything crazy like that, but it is going to increase it enough on the margins and make sure it's more consistent over time. So for example, you can like always look up the Dinero validator efficiency and things like this and see that there's room to capture extra yield. So really what it ensures is that it makes sure that our like our validators are performing to the best of their ability and maximizing the yield opportunity that's available. Does the Ethereum Pectra upgrade affect PXE? Yeah, but in a good way. Like Never said, it makes it way cheaper to run Ethereum LSDs. I thought Berachain was actually just a PSYOP. It's really launching in Q5. Maybe it's a PSYOP, maybe not. Maybe Q5 is real, maybe it isn't. Can you send the Dinero validator site? Yeah, I don't know what the URL is either. It's been a while. The demand for PXETH on the DeFi side seems to have stalled. Why is that? So I think, we can probably revisit the 2-token model for a second. So basically, this is always going to happen. There's going to be ebbs and flow in the demand for either side of the risk curve, right? So like right now, it seems like PXE side is not growing as fast as APXE side because there's a ton of demand for APXE, but that's the beauty of the system, right? Like it'll always swing back and forth to create a bit of a balance. And so, at first it was a lot of demand for PXETH. And then, we're starting to see now with Resolve a ton of demand for APXETH, et cetera. But like ultimately there's still a lot of demand, and even like Tokamak having 11,000 ETH or something allocated to PXETH shows that there's still demand there. But whether or not there's a rebalance doesn't necessarily mean that there's like no demand for PXETH. That's not really the signal, I don't think. Peg Dinero, please. Yeah, the Operation Repeg Dinero is still underway. Let's see, did I miss anything else? Somebody just said Bera ETH. Yeah, Bera ETH. Could be real. Might not be. On God, your wife is going to leave you if we don't get a sex listing. Mine too, actually. Where's Terrence? I believe he's wearing a suit in an office somewhere as per usual. That would be my guess. Can you explain branded ETH? Sure, I can explain branded ETH. So this is fun. Let's explain branded ETH. So basically, I don't know, Sonny, if you're a Marcus alt or not, but we'll walk through it. Branded ETH is essentially a branded wrapper for APX ETH. And so let's say you are an Arbitrum user and you want to stake your ETH on Arbitrum. Our branded LST solution allows you to stake your ETH, or what we call like Orb ETH in this case, since it's Arbitrum. That ETH makes its way back to mainnet, gets staked in PXETH, and then you get a wrapper called Orb ETH in return that you can use across Arbitrum to earn yield from APXETH. And the reason layer 1s and layer 2s like it so much is because this is so funny, is because it has their brand on it rather than APXETH. Colton will be a good dad one day. I'll actually be a dad in like 3 months, funny enough. So hopefully that ends up being true. Can you explain all of Dinero's products? Yeah, let's explain all of Dinero's products. I'm kidding. What does staking mean in crypto? Can you explain in L2? Oh, for fuck's sake. Hidden Hand. Are you asking me to explain Hidden Hand, or do you want to know what's going on with Hidden Hand? We actually do have some Hidden Hand updates. I don't know if I can announce them. So, all right, here's what we'll do. I'm not going to explain Hidden Hand because there's a ton of resources out there on what Hidden Hand is. But we can talk about a little bit about what's going on with Hidden Hand. So I think we talked about this on a few community calls ago, I think we talked about this a few community calls ago, that Hidden Hand is like not going anywhere, and it's something we are actively pursuing like partnerships for if they are really beneficial. We're not necessarily like going all the way down the long tail of governance projects these days. We're trying to find new ways to make Hidden Hand as relevant as possible. And so you all saw like a couple months ago, we announced the Hidden Hand market for like Thruster and Hyperlock, and then we announced that we supported points bribes and things like this. So basically, we're just going to continue doing partnerships in that same vein. We're going to continue making sure that the partners we work with are significant and that we have good opportunities for growth. And we have 2 partnerships kind of coming up in the near future. I think they'll be announced like very, very soon. One of them is more of like an infrastructure level partnership, and then one of them is a new like governance style partnership. So there's good developments on the Hidden Hand front. Thanks everybody for the congratulations. Yes, kids are what life is all about. Have as many kids as you can. I'm gonna have 100. Build a new wave of Dinero bag holders if I can. I heard Dinero holder gets all the Bera. Yeah, I doubt it. Dinero devs, yeah. Half of my children will become Dinero devs. The other half will just ape the token. At least I already have the mansion. Yeah, I have 7 mansions actually. Let's see. Heard the Dinero holder. So we have seen this a lot. This whole like Dinero holder Berachain airdrop thing. I don't ever get your hopes up with regards to airdrops. I would say like Berachain is mostly going to reward people for interacting with its ecosystem. That's kind of the whole point of proof of liquidity. New Mitch Will. I'm not as smart as him, but I'm the left curve or the what is it? Yeah, left curve Mitch Will. All rumors are false until officially denied. Any ink updates? Not yet, but we're working on ink. So, unless Sammy, you have any?
Ink stuff is ink stuff is basically like the whole ecosystem's on pause until Velodrome finishes the deployment. I think every single project we talked to there is waiting on Velodrome.
Yeah, so their launch timing kind of threw a wrench in some of the DeFi protocols getting added. So we definitely have some stuff there. Yeah, Ink is going to do really well, I think, whenever it gets rolling. I mean, I think it'll be hard to compete with Base, but they're in a good position. Ultimately, it's hard not to be bullish on the centralized exchange to custom L2 sort of pipeline. What about Orbeth? We will get it out as soon as we can. So Orbeth has some stuff. We've been cooking behind the scenes on Orbeth to make sure it's a really good launch. And yeah, we've been talking to the Arbitrum Foundation and stuff like that. So we'll get it out soon. That's all I can say on that now. We're going to interact which eco are you talking about? Connected Odds Berachain? Like, yeah, we're doing a lot on Berachain. Yeah, there's going to be a lot there. Lots of partners we're working with. Cool. So this is the first time we've gone a full hour in a while. I will leave it open for questions, for final questions. Joke? No joke. We'll have to hire somebody new for a joke. Everybody here has been hazed. Greatest hour of the month. You guys are killing it. Yeah. I mean, obviously we appreciate all of you guys for taking the time to hang out with us every other Friday, and it's been a pretty fun journey. Especially, I honestly think 2024 was one of the more exciting years we've had, mostly because we went from the early days, we went from literally an governance-based Ohm fork to a project featured in Bloomberg for doing an institutional partnership with like tier 1 institutional partners. If that's not a fucking glow up, I don't know what is. Will this project make it till summer? Only one way to find out. Well, if there's no other questions, Happy New Year, everybody. 2025 is going to be a fun one. We're looking forward to spending it all with you again. Like we said, 2024 was the year of building the foundation, actually building the yield base plate. 2025 is the year of acceleration. So we will see you all at the next one. Peace.